Hey, it's Jonathan Bailor here with a quick disclaimer. The technical gremlins were afoot today, so I apologize. In the show that's about to air, you're going to see a third dimension. If you're watching the video, you're going to see a third screen, which is a little distracting. It somehow fixes itself about halfway through the recording, but please don't let that scare you off if you're watching the video. If you're watching the audio, it won't matter. Because first of all, you can't watch audio, so I don't know why I said that. But if you're listening to the audio, it's all good. If you're watching the video, my apologies. It will fix itself about halfway through. And please do tune in because we have just a great show for you. I'm talking with Shawn Stevenson, who is really a champion in this space. He's got his head and his heart in the right spot. It's a fabulous show. So I apologize for the technical challenges. I appreciate you sticking with me through the show. And I look forward to chatting with you soon. Stay sane. Hey, everybody. Jonathan Bailor back with another SANE show. And I'm really excited about today's show because we have a gentleman who I had the pleasure of having many conversations with. And every single time I talk with him, I'm a geeky guy. I'm a science guy. But this guy touches my heart every time I talk to him. I can tell his heart is in the right place. And everyone I talk to about him echoes that. And you can hear the passion in his voice. And I think that's awesome in an industry that's filled with so much snake oil and just all that nonsense. So I am delighted to bring you the host of the Model Health Show, just an incredible speaker. He's spoken at the TED conference, and he's just helping people all around the world. He's all about wellness and all about doing it the right way. Shawn Stevenson, welcome to the show, brother.
Jonathan, thank you so much for having me on, man. This is awesome. Thank you.
Shawn, it's absolutely my pleasure. And the first thing I wanted to cover on the show today was I know everyone's going to go check out your stuff after the show. And what they're going to see when they go to your website is much different than what they're going to see right here on the camera. So I want you to give them a little bit of a quick disclaimer and background on all that fun stuff.
Awesome, for sure. Well, when people check me out and they see on my website, so I've got the whole shirt off, six pack, that kind of thing. But that is not my persona, we talked about this. It's really just, we're very primitive creatures in many facets, and when we see somebody who's attractive and that they've gotten the results that we want, we tend to kind of perk up and see what they have to say. But when they click in, they find out that it's much, much deeper than this whole, get ripped now kind of attitude. It's really about how can we create a better human being? How can we create better gene function, the right expression of our genes? How can we fortify what's going on with our DNA? So really, I'm talking about deep level stuff, but oftentimes you kind of got to sneak the good guys in under the door. And, I learned this, and our stories are kind of similar in this. I learned this in my university, when I was taking my very first nutrition class, pre-med, totally elective. I did not have to take this class. First day of class, I'm sitting there, auditorium, classroom. The professor walks in. His belly walked in first. I saw his belly come through the door first. And he proceeded to tell us that, in order to lose weight, we needed to expend more energy than we took in. We need to eat low fat, higher fiber, 7 to 11 servings of grains every day. And the thing was, I know he was a smart guy. It's just he was taught the wrong thing. And I often tell people, if you teach a smart person the wrong thing, they become very good at teaching the wrong thing.
I love that.
So with that said, I was really kind of disenchanted, because I just didn't get it. Like, why is it that this man is telling me about nutrition is not healthy himself? I proceeded to not show up for the class except to take the test. Only class in all my university experience that I got a C in. And the funny thing is, like, now I'm considered like one of the experts in the world in this stuff. And I got a C in college, But the good news is, again, I was taught a lot of the wrong stuff. And I found that when we get when we get our hands on the right information, it can be really paradigm shifting for people because it's so deeply ingrained in us. I know you too probably be like, I was afraid to eat fat, And so I'm really just, again, sneaking this information in. Like when I go and do talks for corporations, for universities, just very basic stuff, like giving people the stuff that they want. Like, how can I perform better at work? How can I improve my brain health? How can I improve my memory? But all along, I'm just dropping little nuggets of wisdom in there, and I kind of learned that just through my college experience of what not to do, and then kind of getting into the right stuff to do. So
Shawn, I think one of the reasons you've had such success in what seems like a short period of time, I know you've been at this for a while, but it's almost like a tip of the iceberg kind of thing.
Yeah.
And what what inspired you? Because I know you have a very interesting and unique story dating back even to your childhood, and I think folks will feel that in your work, specifically you coming from a very genuine place, you coming from a very visceral place, rather than, I think sometimes we can detect when people in this industry are coming from a money making place. Not that making money is bad. No, it's very difficult to change the world if you have no money to do it with.
Yeah, true.
But it's the question of, is it what primarily motivates you or what happens because you're doing good work? So tell us a little bit about what gave you all that passion from your past.
Okay. But yeah, my story is the point that it really kicked off for me was when I was 16 years old. I was an athlete, aspiring athlete, scholar athlete, performing at a really high level, looking at going to state and track. And so I'm doing a time trial in track practice. And so I'm running a 200-meter sprint and I broke my hip.
Wow.
Right? Crazy. This is supposed to happen to like 90-year-old women, not like a 16-year-old guy. So I broke the iliac crest of my hip just broke off. And and I continued to go to practice for a couple of days before I took my behind in and got a scan done. And they saw like, hey, wait, there's a piece of bone just hanging off in space. What happened? So I did the traditional route, doing some physical therapy, ultrasound. They gave me like a little jacuzzi thing to put on my bathtub, which was awesome. I got to get out of class early because I was on crutches, all that fun stuff. But nobody stopped to ask, like, why did this kid's hip break? Like, what's the underlying cause here? Because it wasn't a trauma. Nothing extreme happened for this to take place. And so that was my first glimpse. I got a little bit better, continued to excel in my sport. But then it was when I was 20 years old, I began to have trouble walking. And so I go in and see my physician. We take an MRI, and I'm like, why are we even taking an MRI if it's my leg, of my spine? And we get this determination I have degenerative spinal disease. Wow. Okay. And so my doctor proceeds to tell me that I have the spine of an 80-year-old at this point. And that's pretty disheartening. And what was more disheartening was I came to him to get better. I was tired of like limping around and not being able to do the things I wanted to do. And he told me that there was nothing we can do. And as a matter of fact, when I asked him, Jonathan, to this day, I do not know where the question came from. Was it like my spirit animal? Was it my fairy godmother that told me to ask this? But I asked him when I was in the doctor's office, does this have anything to do with what I'm eating? Should I change my diet? Should I change the way I'm exercising? And at this point, again, I have no clue about nutrition and health. He looked me right in my eyes like I was crazy. And he said, this has nothing to do with what you're eating. This is something you're going to have to manage, son. We're going to get you a back brace. I'm going to get you some medication. And this is just something you're going to have to deal with. So I listened to him, and I proceeded to have 2.5 years go by. I saw 4 other physicians, progressively getting worse and worse, to the degree that I had to wear a back brace every day of my life, every waking moment. And I was heavily medicated. I had my little bottles of pills like I was some old man, an old woman again, and just got worse and worse. And to make the long story short, after 2.5 years, this breakthrough moment happened. And it wasn't like something external changed, it was internal. And I was sitting on my bed about to take my medication, and it just hit me like, I've been asking people to help me for 2.5 years and nobody's helped me. I made a decision right then to get well. And that was really the catalyst. And that's what I encourage everybody listening to do. If you really want to do something with your health, you have to make the decision for that thing to happen. And then, of course, I started becoming really fascinated with lexicon. The word decision is from the Latin root de, meaning from, and caedere, which means to cut. So I made a decision to cut away any other possibility except me getting well.
Yeah.
So, and it's not like the clouds parted and unicorns came out or whatever, and, like a magic genie or something, but I put a plan into place, Jonathan. So I changed the way I was eating. I started to do something interesting, which was move again, which all my doctors were telling me not to do. And also I put a strategy together to kind of a progressive strategy. And so 6 weeks later, long story short, again, this is kind of the epiphany, the end of the story. It was as if the pain had never been there. Pain was totally gone. I lost 30 pounds, wow, which is not typical. Put the quotes, it's not typical. I just gained all this weight, not doing anything. And people saw the change at my university. I was still in school, and people started to ask me for help. And that was the birthing of my career. I shifted my course of study to biology into kinesiology and sports nutrition and anything I could find out in school, which was a lot of the wrong stuff still. But it just changed my focus, and I started to help people. And thousands of people later, here in my clinic, I'm honored to say, man, I've really, through my own struggle, I've been able to help so many people, you know. And it was through this quote incurable disease that I had.
Yeah.
And by the way, I got a scan done a few months later, and my doctor said, whatever you're doing, keep doing it, you know, because he didn't have any logical explanation. And
Yeah.
by the way, one little quick caveat is that when it comes to regenerating tissues, your body requires you to give it the raw materials it needs. If you don't give your body the raw materials it needs to do the processes, what do you think it's going to do? You know, it's going to be like robbing Peter to pay Paul kind of thing. And for me, part of the disc are non-vascular in your spine. So my discs were degenerated. I was drinking like a glass of water a day. All right. So they're non-vascular. So that means water, nutrition is not getting there directly. So it's a process of remote diffusion. So you have to have so much water in your system that it gets there kind of last. It's like the last place to get water. So I regenerated through that, and also what makes it up, the cartilage, the tissues. And so I began to consume a lot more foods with like sulfur-bearing amino acids, vitamin C, collagen, you know, all these different things that create your tissues that I was radically deficient in because I was on a college diet, like Papa John's and, you know, McDonald's. And so it wasn't that difficult for your body already knows what to do. You just kind of got to get out of the way. And so that's my story in a nutshell. And yeah, it's been an amazing ride for sure.
Shawn, I love that you focus on this inflection point you had. It was almost this breaking point you had. And it was a point that caused you to say, I have to take control of this. I have to take ownership for this. There's nothing outside of me that's going to give me some magic pill or magic secret Hollywood formula. And I know you see people day in and day out, and I could imagine that now you have the paradoxical experience of people are coming to you and asking you, Shawn, what's the secret, right? Yeah. What you got to help me. So how do you, as an expert now, flip it around on people and get them to take ownership for themselves, just like you took ownership for yourself?
Yeah. Well, for me, it's really simple. You know, our brain really operates on questions, you know, and if you ask the right question and you really find that trigger, oftentimes health professionals today are not listening to the patient. You know, they're dictating. And I often tell people every chance I get is that when you listen to somebody, they will tell you the cause and cure of what's going on with them, because it's all internal, it's all in there. And so just for example, yesterday I had a new patient come in, and they were on different blood pressure medications for like, since they were in the early 30s. It's just like, come on. But nobody ever stopped to actually explain to this woman, what is this blood pressure? What's controlling it? You know, how did it get high in the first place? Not let me give you a drug to suppress a symptom, you know, and that the messed up part is like your body is actually telling you something is off here when the blood pressure's high. So basically, and then maybe you could see, I've got my board over there. So I went and took her through the process of how your blood is built, what is actually controlling your blood pressure. And oftentimes what we think is mainly has to do with your heart, but in actuality, it has a lot to do with your kidneys. In actuality, it has a lot to do with what's going on with your hypothalamus, which is the master gland controlling the fluid levels in your body, you know? So stress, dehydration, too many dissolved substances in your blood from, you know, eating crappy food and food with a lot of, you know, processed sodium. So all these different things really equate to you having high blood pressure as a symptom of your body telling you, please don't put this stuff in me. Please get some sleep. Please drink more water, you know? And so anyways, so that's what I do. I find that leverage point, first of all, in their life. Like, what do they want more than their excuse? You know, what do they want more than their excuse for having this illness? And I look to that thing and I leverage that in conversation and them getting to that place, you know, but I use both because, you know, it's like the carrot and stick, you know, so some people are more motivated by reward, more people are motivated by pain.
Yeah.
And that's usually the thing that gets them to me in the first place.
Yeah.
You know, and they're just kind of sick and tired of being sick and tired. So that's what I do. I leverage what do they want more than their excuse. And also I give them the opportunity. I give them the key to understand what the problem is, which most times nobody's ever done that for them before.
Speaking of pleasure and pain, thing I've been struggling with, and maybe Shawn, you can help me, and I think this will help the viewers and the listeners as well, is we talk about, and a lot of science supports that pain is a stronger motivator than pleasure. There's quite a bit of behavioral economics that show, for example, you'll do more to avoid losing $100 than you will to gaining $100, right? Loss hurts more than the equivalent amount of good makes us feel positive. That said, so let's look at smoking versus eating insane processed foods. So if you smoke cigarettes, it compromises your health, but society doesn't really stigmatize you that much. Put it this way, you can get a date to prom pretty easily even if you smoke cigarettes, right? Someone's not going to take you or skip out on prom because you smoke cigarettes. But as a culture, we put, you could even argue, an unfair amount of pressure on people to look a certain way. So there is a huge amount of pain. And if you look at the discrimination, the open discrimination that obese people face, it's the one group in our culture that it's still perfectly fine to openly discriminate against. Right. And so there is a huge amount of pain taking place. I would argue that it's one of the most painful things someone could ever experience. Right. Why isn't that, it seems like that pain would be enough to drive change, but there's got to be something else going on because it's a massive amount of pain that doesn't always drive change. Yeah.
Jonathan, this is like the real heart of the matter right here. This is the real heart of the matter. And asking these tough questions, from my experience, I really think it's a multi-layered thing, obviously. But at the core, I actually did a show about this and talking about body image and as a culture. So first of all, when an individual is in a state to where they're unhappy with their body, they've got a lot of excess weight on their frame, they don't feel good about themselves. When you're in that place and then you seek help, you hop onto Weight Watchers or you hop onto some kind of a diet, whatever the diet might be, and you fail, which most of these diets fail, they inherently fail. Then we begin to create this psychological loop, of trying and failing continuously, and to the point where humans are all about patterns. We are designed to find patterns very quickly because we're about efficiency. And you get to the point of efficiency that you just no longer do it because you know where it's going to end. And it's really a result of, it's not their fault. It's not their fault. And most people have really owned the fact that there's something wrong with them because other people are doing great with this fancy supplement regimen and taking HCG or whatever it is. Look at all these pictures. What's wrong with me? And they give up, but they don't know that they give up. It's like a psychological negative feedback loop that gets created. And to the degree, again, like they're just like, it's no point in me doing it because I'm going to fail. But what I've seen as a pattern, though, is that people will continue to try, but just tiny, tiny amounts. They'll do something for like a week, maybe 2 weeks, and then it'll just kind of dissipate. So I think it really boils down to getting people honest information in the first place. And that's tough, very tough. But this is why, man, I love you. I love the work that you do. I love our community that we're building. And we're really changing the game with this whole podcast community and making this information readily available because people hear something different in that they feel something different in the texture and the quality of information that we're giving. And they're just like, you know what, I'm going to give it a shot because these guys seem legit, and it's nothing weird. I don't got to like inject myself with horse urine or whatever it is, And so that's really at the heart of the matter is getting people honest information to go for in the first place to create a positive feedback loop.
Yeah.
Okay. That's really what I feel. And also fear of success. Okay. We have this funny thing that if it's our paradigm, if we're used to being the heavy person, we will inherently reach a point to where, we're getting results and then we start to self-sabotage. Part of that and part of my equation that I actually shared in this episode of the show is we don't acknowledge or practicing acknowledging the external feedback. So if somebody's starting to get fit and they're looking better and somebody gives them a compliment, they're just like, no, that's not me. I don't look that good. And they'll repress, they'll push it away and not take that environmental feedback that encourages you to continue. So I really encourage people to practice being able to receive compliments. And it's tough, especially for women.
Yeah.
Very difficult. Guys are just like, yeah, noticing the gains, you Myron, but that's really difficult for a lot of women,
Yeah.
So it's a multi-layered thing, and this is why this work is it's very tough. This is some tough work, but we're making it easier by having such a powerful community, because I feel that our relationships are the most powerful and influential factor in our health. Period. End of story. So I hope that answered the question, man.
Shawn, actually, I mean, that was a profound truth in there. So just to really recap for the audience, because I think that was very, very valuable. There is another term for what you just described is learned helplessness, and this is a established psychological thing. So what you described so accurately is individuals will try this starvation dieting, and it will undoubtedly fail, as it has proven to fail. And then they will. It's not that they're not in pain. It's just that, much like these, and again, I don't endorse these studies, but there were studies that were done where they would take a dog and they would put it, it was like in a cage, and then they would shock the dog, which is terrible. But then, like, if the dog would get up and move to the other side of the room, it would stop getting shocked, and then they would take dogs and they would have the dogs move to the other side of the room, and in that group of dogs they would shock them no matter what. So basically there was a group of dogs where if the dog took an action, they could make the pain stop, and there was a group of dogs where no matter what action they took, they could not make the pain stop. And eventually, despite the fact that these dogs were getting shocked with high voltage electrical shocks, the group that no matter what they did could not avoid the pain just laid there and got shocked. And it's a heartbreaking thing to have happen, but that seems like that's almost like what we're experiencing after enough shocks and us taking effort to make changes, and it just doesn't work. It's not that we're not in pain. It's just like we've proven to ourselves that nothing we can do matters.
Yeah. Profound, man. So profound. That was a perfect thing to really accent what I said. I mean, that's exactly it, that learned helplessness. And how do we get past that is really the question, And again, it really boils down to empowerment and giving people the information to actually understand themselves and stop doing all this surface level crap, trying to modulate calories and trying to, go out here and I'm going to do my, whatever, train for a marathon or whatever the case may be that somebody's trying to do. But just for them to understand, how does my body actually work?
Yeah.
I feel that that's like, it's a prerequisite for somebody who really wants to be the healthiest person they can possibly be. You need to learn about yourself. Like, you live with yourself all the time. You should know how you operate. And this stuff is not complicated. The so-called experts out there, who I learned from, in school, they try to make stuff sound super complicated so they seem smart. It's not about that. This stuff is so simple, and it just goes back to principles from Einstein. Like, if you can't explain it simply, you don't know it well enough. And that's really why I appreciate you so much. And, and the work that I'm doing is really just taking this complex material, making it super easy and accessible to everybody so that we can all get the results that we really deserve to have.
It's beautiful, Shawn, and I know you're having great success with that because you're doing it with the right information and with the right motivation. So where can we go to learn more about this? What are you up to next? And basically just how can we have the full Shawn Stevenson experience?
So, well, I'm the most passionate thing in my life right now is doing my show. And, we're both just crushing it on iTunes. So people can check me out on iTunes. It's called The Model Health Show. And of course, Stitcher and all those wonderful places. And then they can also access the show at my home on the internet, the ShawnStevensonModel.com. So I'm always there posting new articles, and we just got into doing some videos. I haven't done videos in like 4 years. Tons of free resources that people can consume and share. And really, the thing that I pride myself most in is you being able to take something actionable away from the conversation. And that's like most of my shows end with like 5 tips to apply whatever, So, and we got shows ranging from reversing diabetes to reversing heart disease, depression, body image stuff, anything that you can name, and I've got the clinical data to back it up. And if anything, I'm bringing the top person in the field to talk about it, so even natural cancer solutions. I got an episode where I'm showing breast cancer scans of one of my patients, 1 month of her having breast cancer metastasizing and spreading through her neck. And then people got to actually go and check it out to see the after a month what happened. But told her that it was a wrap. She needs to make arrangements, for her kids because she's not going to be here long. And right now she's thriving. She's thriving. So anyways, let me not go down the track. And also, I'm really excited about my new book. It's been out for a couple of months now. #1 on the bestseller list on Amazon for 4 months straight. It's called Sleep Smarter. And too, like sleep is the deal. So I literally wrote the book on it, and it's doing really well and helping a lot of people. So those are the things I'm really excited about, and I love for people to connect with me there. And again, Jonathan, thank you so much, man. I really do appreciate you.
Oh, my pleasure, brother. I so appreciate you coming on the show. And just to recap for the listeners, and please correct me if I miss anything here, but we've got the Model Health Show, so be sure to check that out. We've got Shawn, or the Shawn Stevenson Model.com. And name the book again.
Sleep Smarter. Sleep Smarter, 21 proven tips to sleep your way to a better body, better health, bigger success.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Shawn. This is fabulous.
All right. Thank you, Jonathan. Take care.
Viewers and listeners, I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. Our brilliant guest today is the always inspiring Shawn Stevenson. Be sure to check him out at the ShawnStevensonModel.com. Check out the Model Health Show and check out the Sleep Book. And I just blanked on the name, but it's all good. Just go to his website and you'll figure it out. And this week and every week after, remember, stay sane. Chat with you soon.